Today. Welcome back to another episode of The Guam Guy Show. I'm joined with my very good friend, one of my very first freediving students, and we're not going to dive into the caveats of that. Leilani Naden with Sea Grant Guam, is that right?
Center for Island Sustainability and Sea Grant.
Okay, so UOG, got it. All right, so let's just jump right into it. So I heard you want to turn the whole island into an MPA and ban fishing, yeah?
No.
No? Are you sure?
Never.
Okay, good. So what's going on?
Do that. So the Guam Department of Agriculture's Division of Aquatic and Wildlife Resources, DAR, we'll call them, is in the middle of this Guam Fisheries Management Plan where they're hoping to put forth some regulations based on community input to better manage our fisheries and ensure that we have fish for the future. Many of these measures are simply a translation from what the community has expressed that they'd like to see. So they wouldn't put forth anything or propose anything that the fishing community absolutely hates, and turning the entire island into an MPA is one of that. So I don't foreshadow that to happen. But yeah, so the fisheries management plan is well underway. We're getting towards the end here, and our role at EOG, CIS, and Sea Grant is to ensure that input from the fishing community is captured. We relay that to DAR. We help to facilitate meetings with the fishing community, and we do have some town halls coming up at the end of this month, and just to be the engine that moves this FMP forward.
Okay, so let's Tarantino this a little bit. Let's jump forward and then backward. So the impetus for this is there's a couple of town halls coming up. Is that the right word, town halls?
Yes, town halls, community meetings.
Okay, so we're recording this in early June 5th, I think it is right now. And so in a few weeks, June 23rd, 24th, 25th, this year, 2025, you have a few town halls, north, south, and central, so that's awesome. And so that was kind of the impetus for me asking you to come on the show. Now, taking a step back, you said you're trying to make a plan that incorporates feedback, so it sounds like you're already well into the process. What am I saying? Yeah, you are well into the process. I think I helped with something. I think it made me do a survey or something like that before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so...
Yes, I did. And you helped spread the word, so thanks for that.
Sure. Okay, so why do we need a fisheries management plan?
So for over 2 decades now, Guam has seen over 60% decrease in our fish stocks. So...
What was that number again?
Over 60%.
Oh my God. So
it's a huge number. Several studies have been published to kind of show that our fish stocks have been decreasing over time. And it kind of makes sense. Sometimes Guam is considered the Wild West of fishing. You can come here and catch any amount of fish, so any volume, any size fish, even if it's an immature individual, you can catch that. Any species, even if they're slowly disappearing over time, you can still catch the rare ones. So fishing has just gone unregulated for a long time, and the amount of people fishing on our island is only increasing. The effectiveness of fishing gear is only getting better. Mm-hmm. So when you put all that together, along with all the other anthropogenic threats that are facing our ocean, mm-hmm. fishing pressure is often the strongest driver of negative change across Pacific Islands. And so I think the time for this FMP was a while ago, but I'm glad that Guam DAR is acting now, and I think we're living in a time where more of the fishing community is receptive to management and regulations versus even 10 years ago. Going into fisheries, I was told that I'm coming in at a good time, mm-hmm. because even just 10, 20 years ago, that fisher versus science or fisher versus management was really strong. But now we're seeing a shift in the mindset. I mean, it's not 100%, not everybody is for it, but it's really awesome to see us kind of transitioning into a more sustainable mindset when it comes to this natural resource that won't be around forever, mm-hmm, if we don't take care of it.
Yeah, even myself as a newer spearfisher or fisher of any kind, I've kind of noticed that there's you have that spectrum between the willingness of cooperation and people just talking to each other, whether they're from the sciences or just straight up from the fishing community, and now this overlap where there's both, like people like yourself and maybe even myself, if I can include myself, right? So someone that represents science and fishing. And so what kind of feedback have you been asking from the community, and what have people been saying? Mm-hmm.
So some of the feedback we were looking for is basically just what types of measures are you hoping to see? What would you support? So we we did have like a preloaded survey where here are some of the different options that would work for Guam that would be considered. How would you rank them? So stuff that you would support the most, measures that you would support the least, and if there was anything we were missing from the list, like please let us know. So yeah, it was pretty simple. We didn't want to.
No, it wasn't. I did your survey.
Oh, yeah.
So okay. So
there was like 3 minutes minimum. So like some people took like 20 minutes also.
If you've not taken this survey, which I guess is most people, but like if you've not taken this survey and you hear, oh, we had these preloaded answers for you, it sounds kind of restricted, and it sounds like it kind of guides you in the way that whoever makes the surveys wants things to go. But it was a long list, and I had to actually look up a lot of these terms, and I think you provided like a glossary of what all these things were. I'm like, what's the difference between this and that? I think one would have been an MPA and one was a community managed area.
Marine managed area.
Something like that. I'm like, what's the difference? And there was other things, and I'm like, I actually don't know what all these things are. And so it was not a simple survey. I mean, it wasn't difficult either, but it did require a little bit of learning, and so it was fair. I thought it was pretty comprehensive. But I don't know what else you could have other than what was on that list. I was trying to think of stuff.
So my goal was to really try to do one-on-one, like in-person surveys, so that I could have a conversation with the fisherman, fisherwoman on what this is.
So you got lazy with me.
I was like, Karen, go. I kind of got a little desperate towards the end. I wasn't getting the numbers that I wanted, so I kind of started putting it out online for people to fill out. But for the most part, as one person trying to drive around and intercept fishers, that was a challenge. But we were able to get enough, about 100.
Wow, yeah. That's a great data set. You got 100? Okay.
Yeah, and you know fishermen, they're hard to find, and they're asking them to take 3 to 5 minutes when they want to go fishing all day is a tough ask sometimes. So I really do appreciate those who took the time out to do the survey. Yeah. And I know it wasn't simple and easy and straightforward, but
it's okay. It's important. It's good. It
was important. Yeah.
It's good work. Okay, so and I won't say it's just fishers. Like I guess it's our culture. Sometimes I don't know how to understand it. Like sometimes we're very reserved. We don't want to talk, right? And sometimes I'm just talking about Chamorros in general. Sometimes we're very reserved. We want to talk, and sometimes we will not stop talking to you.
Yeah, I had both spectrums both ends of the spectrum on the survey. It's like some people who just got straight to the point, said very little, and then some that took like 30 minutes for sort of like I don't know, just all the input that they could. It was an opportunity for them to say as many things as they wanted to, and we appreciated that. We took that feedback.
Yeah, cool. So you're talking about DAR and UOG. What is that relationship? What's up with that?
So we were asked by DAR. So once I finished my master's degree, not too many people go into fisheries as a career here, and so I guess I kind of stood out once I was done with my master's, like, hey, this girl's into fisheries, let's get her to help with the fisheries management plan. And so DAR basically subcontracted us to basically facilitate and write the fisheries management plan. So after all the town halls, we'll be taking all the feedback, probably meeting again with DAR to refine those proposed measures, and then I'll be sitting down behind a computer for a really long time. A few weeks I'll be hiding in a hole and just writing this fisheries management plan. Okay,
so I think it sounds like we have a lot more than a good enough background. So let's go ahead and go through those options just off the top of your head, or if you want to pull it out your phone, it's all good. Like what are some of the preliminary results from the survey, if you're allowed to share, and we'll go in order of most of the kind of ways people want to control fishing, right? Not necessarily restrict fishing, right? But like kind of control fishing, because everybody else in the world seems to be doing this. Everybody else in the developed world seems to be doing this.
Yes.
So like, what is the most? Let's start with number one. Like, what's the most commonly receptive type of fishing control method people are looking at?
So the number one measure that was supported the most by those who took the survey is mandatory licensing and reporting.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is not what I was expecting at all.
No, I was pleasantly surprised. If you think about it, like if you're even a farmer here, you have to be a licensed bona fide farmer, I think. If you're a bona fide farmer, right?
Well, I think anyone can grow stuff in their backyard, but I think if you want to go to market and stuff, there might be something else to it. But
like if you're people are selling fish.
Yeah,
people are selling fish. So there's commercial, recreational, right, or / subsistence fisheries, and we don't have anyone required to be a licensed commercial fisher or a licensed subsistence fisher. And so that was the top measure right now is mandatory licensing and catch reporting, because right now you can refuse a creel survey, which is essentially a catch and effort survey. They survey your catch when you come back from fishing. You can turn that down. And so over time, that doesn't work in favor of the fisheries dependent data. That's catch data, catch collected or data collected from the fishers. And so DAR wants to kind of improve that catch data over time by also making catch reporting mandatory. So you cannot refuse, you wouldn't be able, if this goes through, you wouldn't be able to refuse a catch interview or survey. But yeah, it was the number one mandatory licensing and reporting. So you'd have to be licensed as a commercial fisher or a recreational fisher. I'm not too involved in that component. I do believe DAR is already kind of drafting something in regards to that. It received the most feedback, so I think it's something they feel strongly about putting forth. So they've been kind of working on their own on the side on drafting what that looks like. So if you have any questions at the town halls, they'd be very likely to know all the details of that and how it would work.
I'm very surprised. I would have expected that to be a bit more contentious because, what do you call it, like, we want to license our culture, our cultural practices, right? And the realist in me, and if people want to be cynical, we can say like the colonized or westernized version of me wants, is like kind of sees like, man, like it's hard here. Like I'm a good diver, dude. Like I'm literally a professional free diver, and it's hard out there. And that said, my hunting isn't as good as my diving, but it feels like. I feel like I should be able to just go into the water anytime and just start shooting away, right, with the spearfishing. And so I guess it will be interesting to see how that shakes out. My initial reaction is a little bit like, whoa, hey, but if that's what we need, and if things ever turn around such to the point, well, hey, we don't have to do this anymore, but we can get rid of it. Like, I doubt that would happen, but it shouldn't be too unusual. Like we have we have hunting licenses for deer, right? Is it licensed or tags or all of the above?
I think all of the above. William is licensed as, I believe, a hunter, and then he has to get tags. So it's interesting that we have more protective measures towards invasive species, which is interesting. So why not for the
right? Deer's. I love deer or not, deer is an invasive species here, and we have protections for them and not our fish outside of the MPAs, right? Will is her husband, Mr. Naden.
Sorry.
So it's cool. Now, you snuck in a term, or you didn't sneak in a term, but you used this term I don't think most people know, because I've had to ask you a few times to explain it to me.
Is it creel?
No. Well, there's that in there, but I think more people have heard of that than fisheries dependent data.
Yes.
And so let me take a crack at it, see if I got it right. So if a marine biologist just jumps in the water and look around, that's fisheries independent data, meaning they can look at the fish without catching anything and provide data on what kind of fish and how many is in a particular place at that particular time. And you said fisheries dependent data, where you're actually measuring what people catch. So it depends on what people catch, and that's how you get your data.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool. Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we got licensing as a potential option. What was next, if you recall?
The next one, interestingly, was marine protected area.
More people want marine protected areas?
That was either number 2 or number 3.
Wow.
So I think it was one of those measures
this is so not going how I was expecting.
My mind was blown, because I think it was one of those measures that people hated in the moment but learned to love later when they saw the benefits. I mean, this MPA thing came around in 1997. I was born in 1997. So we've had 27 years for these stocks to recover within the MPAs. And I think the fishing community really sees the benefit of, clearly, you go into an MPA, it's very different when you dive non-MPA sites.
Except for SASA.
Except for SASA. Yes, there are some caveats with a few of them.
But SASA is a different kind of MPA, right?
It is an interesting one. But yeah, I think that one came out number 2 or number 3 as a spatial measure, which was really interesting. So it's cool to see that, the fishing community is receptive to marine protected areas. And I think number 3 was size limits. So I think a lot of fishers really recognize the the harvesting of immature individuals, maybe by other people, but also understand the need to restock our fishing grounds by allowing those smaller individuals to be able to reproduce before they make it into the fishery. So those were the top three that I can think of at the top of my head.
Okay, and just within those three, there's also categories within that, right? So one is licensing. You use the word spatial, so space, right? And like deciding what to do in particular physical actual areas, whether it's a bay or a stretch of coast or whatever. And then the last one was about the fish themselves. So are there other categories?
So the two categories that DAR is pretty much thinking about is like the non-spatial, that's like the licensing, the size limits, and then the spatial measures, that's pretty much marine managed areas, marine protected areas, or if you were to restrict certain areas to commercial fishing and leave it only to subsistence fisheries, that kind of thing. But for the most part, the measures that will be proposed to the fishing community, presented to the fishing community for input, are for the most part non-spatial. DAR did sit down and they did think about putting forth some spatial measures, but that's going to take a lot more time to think about. And the MPAs, while they're not perfect, and some of them, for the most part, like SASA, aren't perfect, leaving them as they are right now, and maybe our first line of defense, DAR's first line of defense is hoping these non-spatial measures, because obviously MPAs alone haven't been able to fix all our problems with our fishery stocks. So what more can we do outside of MPAs? What more can DAR do outside of MPAs that can help bring our fish stocks up? And so kind of looking at those non-spatial measures and seeing how those work over time in combination with the current MPA system. So we'll see. Only time will tell.
Okay. So you mentioned catch size limits is, you call that meaty, right? Make sure it's big enough or not too small. What about, so there's like some fish you get them precisely because they're that small, like Manyahawk with Tiao, EE, right? So those are all the juvenile fish I can name, by the way.
Tiao, EE, Manyahawk. Yeah. There's a tulai, but DAR is not going to touch any of those for size limits for the most part.
So like what would be affected?
So 9 different species will have, if...
only 9?
Only 9.
How many eatable fish do we have species?
A lot. So when the stock assessments...
like hundreds, yeah?
Yeah, so when the stock assessments were conducted, because obviously we, well, maybe not obvious to some people, but you want to be able to conduct the science, look at the data, see what it's saying over time about certain species, if they're increasing or decreasing, or they're stable over time in terms of abundance and size. When UOG Marine Lab conducted those stock assessments, they looked at species that comprise of at least 60% of the landings, which ended up being about 30 to 40 species, I believe. So only 9 made the size limit list for now, but that's where the town hall meetings can come in place. We do have a discussion point where if you are supportive of a size limit, are there any species that you would like to see make it to the size limit list? Because other places too, like Koshrai and other places in Micronesia, have size limits for at least 12 to 15 species. So I think it's great that DAR is starting a little small, like at 9, and then maybe with input from the fishing community, that number can be adjusted. We could maybe add more. Again, it's really going to come down to the town halls, I think, and what the community is supportive of. Okay,
so like, are you going to have visuals there? Because like, I'm still learning, dude.
Yep.
Like just with parrots, right?
Yeah.
Like everything, the males look different from the females, and both look different from each other when they're young versus older. So like,
oh my gosh, yes.
So someone's like, Nan, the one that looks like with the pink in the mouth, and then there's like that,
Oh, Scary Cyticus, yeah.
Oh my god, is that real?
the pale nose parrot.
I was just making that up.
Yes, so there will be visuals at the meeting. I literally thought about that yesterday. So it's funny that you're bringing that up. I started to make visuals of like the fish and to put them up and around the room, because yes, I'm like, wait, we do need visuals.
Yeah, because one species can have 4 presentations, can have like 4 ways it can look, right? Male, female, young or old.
Initial phase, terminal phase. Yes, we will have visuals at the meeting, and right now only 9 species, like I mentioned, are being considered 4 size limits, and so I'll have visuals for all of those and what they look like. But they include like bluefin tadakitu, tangisen, steephead lugwa. A bunch of them actually are parrotfish.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so Matanhagen's in there, and a couple other parrots.
All right, so just stepping away from the recording for a second, what's, we're still recording obviously, but what's the smallest size you can shoot a Matanhagen or catch?
So Noah, we're not. You're gonna cut this out, right?
I'm not. No.
No.
No, we're not. Okay, so we don't have a. If you can't say, you can't say. It's all right.
We do have. There's data out there that we just don't know yet on Matanhagen, but so DAR is proposing a minimum size limit. They're gonna put all 9 under 1, just so it's easier for the fishing community to just remember. Instead of like, oh, it's 10 inches for this and 11 inches for that and 12 inches for that. They're going to put all of them under a 12-inch size limit. So we don't exactly know the size at maturity for Matanhagen right now. So sometimes we just borrow life history data from other islands. We're hoping to get that L50, which the size at maturity is referred to as L50, soon. But for the most part, that 12-inch size limit, that's the maximum, the highest size lit for all that all the species listed. Some of them are like mature at 11 inches. So we're like, well, if you bump it up an inch, it's that's fine. So for the most part, they'll all fall under 8 of them will fall under a 12-inch size limit, and then Tangisen will fall under a 24-inch size limit. So 12 times 2 be easier to remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess like the reason you were about Matanhagen in particular is, if I recall correctly, like there's data out that exists in the world that has just not yet been, I guess, studied and fully evaluated.
Yeah, the analysis hasn't been done yet.
Okay, so you just have to be reserved.
Yes.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I think some people kind of hold that against scientists, is like they don't want to say because like they don't have the evidence for it yet. So, but I think that's. I'm happy to speculate as like a genuine not scientist. I can do that. Balance. I don't have a career as a scientist on the line, so it's all good. Okay, no, I get that. That's cool. So we had licensing. We already talked, and then what was the second? Help me out. What was the second one again?
Size limits and marine protected areas.
Okay,
so those were the top 3.
Okay, so I heard. So there's a minimum catch size, right?
Yes, that would be a minimum catch size.
I've lived in Australia. And probably been to many places, or at least other places where they've had catch size maximums as well. Is that on the list? So that was something that was considered for, I believe, Tangisen. So you would have a minimum catch size of at least 24 inches, and then there would be a maximum, because you would want to protect like the larger individuals. I can't remember why we ended up just going down the route of just a minimum size limits, but yes, regulations like that do exist, and other islands do that as well. Okay. And if anyone brings other islands do that?
Yes, I do believe there's a term for it. I don't know why I'm blanking. I think it's L optimum. So there's size at maturity and there's L optimum, but that's a Brett Taylor question. Okay,
so what do you call it? Like, there's like, why would you I remember remarking at this. A shout out to Linda Tatro back when she was still in her teaching days. So like, there was I guess she's never not a teacher, but when she was doing it like Monday to Friday, so there was. A female fish that's twice as big as another fish doesn't lay twice as many eggs. It lays like 100 times eggs.
So
does that sound right?
Something like that. It's an allometric relationship. The bigger the fish, the more eggs it's gonna have. So
what was that?
Sorry, word? Allometric, meaning it's just like burp, that's what it looks like on the ground.
What about the listeners?
So as the fish gets bigger, its ability to carry more eggs it only increases. So a 10 centimeter fish versus a 100 centimeter fish of the same species.
Instead of 10 times, it'll be 100 times, or 10.
I don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah, it's some ridiculous. It's just way more than double. So So whether it's 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times, and I hope I'm not exaggerating on that last one. Okay. All right, so and that's why they protect like the really bigger fish, because like if you have 10 fish that are just mature enough versus one fish that's like twice as mature in terms of the size, it still gives you a lot more eggs and reproductive material to go with. Okay, okay, so that's catch size minimum. So what I've seen, and so if I shoot a fish that turns out to be too small, just to be in compliance with the law, and I measure it because I can't measure it while it's still swimming, right? I have to catch it. So if I shoot a fish that's too small, I'm like, oh no, this is too small. I just kind of, just by definition, just have to, let it go to waste and put it back into the circle of life, right?
So that's one of the things that DAR is a bit worried about, is people discarding fish in fear of, getting caught.
Yeah, I don't want to get caught.
Yeah, so I do believe DAR wants to do kind of a period of 1 to 2 years where it's kind of like the fishing community eases into these measures if they should be put forth, like the size limit, for example. So they have 1 to 2 years to kind of, we as Seagram will also help with like training. Places like Pohnpei do size training with the fishing community, where it's actually really awesome. So they have a classroom setting where they have fish stencils kind of cut out at very specific, basically wooden cutouts of fish at very specific sizes. It's like 31 centimeters, 30 centimeters, 27 centimeters. And they visually train the fishing community to size that fish down to the centimeter. And then they go underwater and they do in-water training where it's, okay, before you shoot a fish, guess its size. And then when you land it, measure it and see how off you were. So it's a constant kind of training, and that's something we hope to do and learn from Pohnpei and prepping the community on things like size limits. But there will be, I do believe, I think DAR is considering just kind of this transition period where the citations and fines won't be too crazy, just helping the community kind of like ease into those measures. And we can put forth some workshops and trainings to prep the community, because we can't just like, here are all the new measures, and then there's no training, there's no outreach.
Fair.
There's just going to be so much outreach and training that can come from this fisheries management plan. So I do see us as Sea Grant continuing to work together with DAR even after the FMP is written and implemented.
FMP, Fisheries Management Plan, anybody just tuning in. So you mentioned citations, and I want to come back to that.
That's outside the realm of what I know.
Yeah, but okay, but first, no, I'll speak on that one.
Okay, cool.
Okay, you kind of got, answered part of my question, but not entirely. So let's say, years down the line when it is, fully implemented and the community has had plenty of opportunity to engage with DAR and learn the regs and maybe even these trainings, right, for catching the size. Let's say I'm out and there's just some murky water and my calibration is messed up and I shoot a fish that's an inch too small. All right, like I just gotta leave it, just release it, let it die and just circle life it, right? Because ultimately, if I do land that fish, it's still a citable offense. And that's what I've seen, right? Like at least in Australia, is like we'll shoot the fish. That's exactly what happened actually. I shot a coral trout.
They had size limits there?
Yeah, and the size was on Great Barrier Reef.
Wow.
And I brought it back, we measured it, and he's like, it's just a little too small, and we had to let it go. Fortunately, the way I shot it was horrible. I kind of shot it like through its mouth and out the gill plate. So like we were able to, I guess I hope that's survivable. So we had to let it go, but it wasn't, an immediately mortal wound. And so that's what I remember having to do. Remember having to let it go. And so just to not, and so I guess it is a waste of a fish, but I guess it sucks to waste a fish, but it's, what do you call it? I guess it just encourages me to be better, us to be better.
Yeah,
Is that what
I think so.
Okay, better at sizing.
Yeah, I'm a fisherwoman myself, as you know, and I, constantly think about how these measures are going to affect me and my husband and all the friends I know that go fishing. And when I think about size limits, I'm going to be pretty conservative, I think, when it comes to those species with size limits. Like, unless I'm absolutely sure, even if it's yeah, I just want to definitely be sure if it's, sometimes it'll be obvious, like this is a massive lagua, like I'm pretty sure that's within the size limit. So I think for those species that fall within the size limits, I'll be pretty conservative about that. Maybe is that the word, conservative?
Yeah.
Just overshooting the size limit for sure. Like I just want to make sure that I'm not landing.
Now you're mixing words, overshooting or
oversizing, like not just settling for a 12-inch, because if I'm not very sure about it, then maybe I'll slam a steep head lagua that's obviously over that.
Okay, so by conservative, you'll mean like, all right, that looks a little too close. I think it's over, but I think it's too close, so maybe I'll just let that one go. That's what you mean by being conservative, yeah. Okay. So about citations, and this is going to be from me right now because I think this is outside your purview. But step in, please, if I'm wrong. So I think we have this issue with our law enforcement, with at least conservation officers within DAR, within agriculture, that we, number one, just don't have enough conservation officers. And number two, that the choice is either prosecution or nothing, because it's not like GPD can write you a ticket for speeding, right? Like I've never heard anyone get a ticket for fishing in the MPA or anything. So that is, I guess, another conversation to have with DAR or agriculture or someone else.
Sit down with the CO. That'd be interesting.
Oh, I have actually one time, but we were just talking about the MPA. So that episode we recorded underwater. Actually, that was we shot that one in fisheye. So that was really fun. It's like we're literally underwater. And I had my friend Russ like kind of swimming outside the windows, just waving at the camera. So that was funny. Okay, so... Well,
in regard to your comment, sorry if I can just quickly comment on not enough COs. For sure. I recently had a conversation, though, with LT, the Lieutenant, Dr. Regadio. I'm so into the science world, I'm referring to everyone as Doctor. LT Regadio and Chelsea, I've talked to her, too, and they've actually put a bunch of people in the apprenticeship program.
Ooh.
So there will be more COs. That's part of the FMP process, is they're trying to increase enforcement officers. So, yeah, right now, I think it's like 5 to 7, maybe even less than that.
That
for
patrol,
yeah.
Outside of the admins,
So they are putting a bunch of people. I don't know the exact numbers, but they seem pretty confident in this FMP and being able to have more presence out there to be able to enforce stuff. But yeah, a huge thing too is compliance, and I'm hoping, again, with that shift in the mindset of the fishing community to more sustainable ways of fishing, that we'll have higher compliance. We can't just leave it all to the COs. We should, do our best to comply.
We should own it. Yeah, it's our resources, right? We should police ourselves, right? And then get assistance, with policing each other from law enforcement. But why is it always someone else's job? Like, we should do more on our own too, right? So like all my cleanups, I just do them, right? Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some cool things that can come from this compliance-wise, enforcement-wise too, with like community watches, but like for the ocean kind of thing. So outreach, training, and just some community-based kind of compliance and enforcement would be really cool to see come out of this. So many things can come out of it. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, all right. What's another one that we haven't touched yet?
I think what came out as number 4 might have been marine managed areas. At least it was up there. I think there were 8, and marine managed areas came out up top. And so for those who don't know what a marine managed area is, it's basically a type of so MPAs, marine protected areas, are a type of marine managed area. It's basically an area of water where there are certain restrictions applied to it. And a marine managed area can be as flexible in the measures, the restrictions within that area as you can make it. So it can be up to the fishing community. I think they do this in like Hawaii. They do it in other parts of Micronesia too, where the regulations, the restrictions that occur within this marine managed area basically is just what the fishing community details. So it's like, if we don't want to see, for example, let's take Coco's Lagoon. If we don't want to see nighttime spearfishing commercially happen within the lagoon, the fishing community of Marito says, we're tired of seeing, nighttime commercial spearfishing happening in the lagoon, then they can say, maybe with our marine managed area, we can ban that. So you can be flexible with the type of measures that exist within this marine managed area. And I think some people were pretty open to that. That was a real example, by the way. That was some of the feedback that we were getting in regards to some of the Molesu residents that took the survey, is they have a lot of pride with the Cocos Lagoon. And so I was seeing a few comments where one person wanted to turn the entire thing into a marine protected area.
Wow.
One or two people, actually. Some
From
people,
Molesu?
yes.
Wow.
Some people wanted to just see nighttime spearfishing commercially, like, banned from the lagoon. So yeah, it was really interesting on that little comment section where some people were just giving feedback on things like that.
Mm-hmm. I would guess that that's a minority of people that would want to turn the lagoon into a. Is MMA? It is MMA. Okay, it is MMA. So. Okay. So you said MPAs are a category of MMA, or
Yes.
is it the other way around?
Marine protected areas are a category of marine managed area where it's a no-take zone completely. So we, as we know, have 5 of those.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a marine managed area can be flexible too. It could be community-based. And they have, I think in Hawaii and other parts of Micronesia, they have marine managed areas.
And so would an MMA be it sounds like it's community driven, but is it still government enforced?
That I'm not sure, but we did bring up an instance where I think UMATIC has a community-based fisheries management plan, if I'm not mistaken. And Molesu was in the process of creating one. So one of the things on my to-do list is to kind of like meet with the communities there and kind of see what's going on and how we can revive that stuff. Because again, fisheries now and today is kind of better than it was 10, 20 years ago. But even outside
I'm sorry,
of
did you say fishing now is better than 10, 20 years ago?
Like the world of fisheries and the mindset of the fishing community.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, towards being more receptive to management, has shifted. So I think outside, from my understanding, based on the conversations we had at the past DAR internal meetings, is even outside of this fisheries management plan that's initiated by DAR, the villages can put together some type of management for the reefs that surround the villages. And I think UMATIC has an existing one. I haven't yet looked into it, just been busy. But I think Molesu also was in the process of starting one. They got pretty far, but that one kind of died. So, but yeah, even outside of an FMPA, I do believe the villages have the authority, the mayors, to create some type of management for the reefs that surround the villages. So it'd be cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Who would know better, right, than the people who grew up there and live in there, and you combine that with like the scientific side of things, and it just seems like it's all the better. Now, could you control who gets to fish?
Based, like the village-based
so it's
plans?
like if let's just say Molesu, for example, is like, all right, we only want like residents down here who are residents registered with the mayor's office or however it works. Is like, is that legally possible within a U.S. framework? Because I think there's a term for the water. Is it common pool resource or something like that?
I'm not sure, but
Okay,
that would be cool. I mean,
that'd be cool?
back in the day, I don't know. Me personally, I think that'd be sick. But I feel like more like back in the day when we had more ownership of our reefs, I feel like it worked like that, you know. And in some ways, it still kind of does. I know Molesu is still very much, takes a lot of pride in the reefs that surround the village, and sometimes they give the eye to people who aren't from there. But for the most part, I do believe that's how it used to work. Is if you're from that village, you can fish the waters, and if you're not, then you got to go with someone who is, get permission. It works like that in places like Yap. Like if you got to get permission to go fishing in certain
they
areas.
can like take your hand or something, right?
It's extreme in some place, like elsewhere in Micronesia. Like if you think about it, it's pretty crazy. But it works. You hop in the reefs and there's fish everywhere.
Yeah, so I think we use. Is it crazy or is it crazy? Because it's like if your community, if your family depends on the fish in your reef that your community controls, and someone else comes in. I think someone told me, Yappy's lady, first offense is they take all your gear. Second offense is they take your hand. And I'm ready to be wrong on that, so please don't hold me too hard to that.
Yeah, I think that traditional way of managing our resources, where it's up to the community, I think is really awesome. I would love to see a day that comes when we return to more traditional ways of managing our resources. Empowering our people to take care of this amazing natural resource.
Okay.
Be cool.
Yeah, so I guess it runs the risk. Like, one, sorry to everyone in Senahanya and Barragata and all the landlocked villages.
You just got to make friends with someone from Raytown and they'll take you.
And I used to live in both those villages, so like we don't have water, and Chalapago just has a sliver of Pago Bay, right? And so like I'm from Chalapago, like born and raised. What else is there? I guess Pago Bay is fishable. Yeah, people throwing talads out there all the time. So what else we got? We had MPAs. You said was number 2.
It came out as one of the top 3. I think it was either
2 or
number
3.
2 or number 3, and I was pleasantly surprised at that. Even if spatial management doesn't get put forth, which is unlikely at this time, it's good to see, at least based on that survey, that the fishing community, is supportive of marine protected areas, and it's nice to see that they recognize that it's working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not all perfect, they're not all working. I think the MPAs that are more visible to the eye, people are frequently visiting, like PD Bomb Holes, Chimon Bay, easier for enforcement, work better than others. But it's awesome to see the fishing community kind of recognize.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that as an emotional, psychological thing. I'm not sure if I would put another MPA though.
So we had a meeting in October with a couple of fishers to basically just what types of measures would work. So this was like the initial phase of the FMP, where we were getting input from some key, well-respected members of the fishing community, and they were also supportive of MPAs, and they were offering like places or suggesting areas that would make better MPAs. And one of the areas that came up was like the Arodi Peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would come down, if ever an MPA were to be selected, it would definitely be getting input from the fishing community on areas they'd like to see as an MPA, but also where the science is coming from, like what areas are in maybe need of no-take regulations. But it was really interesting to see, even from well-respected members of the fishing community, like MPAs, we've seen it, I've snorkeled it, they're awesome, they work, but some just don't work as well as others, and we could, maybe suggest this place that would be Rodi Peninsula would make a great MPA kind of thing. So, just again, even if spatial measures don't get put forth and implemented, it's really cool to see how receptive the fishing community is to MPAs.
Okay, and just to backtrack, like the whole motivation for this, having a fisheries management plan, is our fish have been declining. I don't know if any reasonable person would disagree with that, right? I think everyone agrees that our grandparents and their grandparents could fish more in an hour than we can in a day, oftentimes, right? Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
That's fair, but not everybody thinks that way.
Okay.
And I think you and I have been to other places in Micronesia, like just amazing places with abundant fish and reef everywhere, and not everybody has been able to see something in comparison to what Guam can be. And so certainly that mindset still exists of I think we're fine, we have fish out there, and I think that's okay to be open-minded to people like that, and maybe one day they can go visit some of the other places in Micronesia and see what our reefs could be like.
Yes, it's mind-blowing, like when you go to a truly healthy reef, just how loud it is.
Oh my
the
gosh.
Sound, you just jump in the water and it's just like, it's not this quiet ocean, it's incredibly noisy and busy. It's like you close your, like you don't even have to close your eyes, like you don't even just try to hear it, it's just so obvious, like what is all this sound, right? And then go to some places, I'll dive like 50, 60 feet, right? Free diving, and I'll just hang out down on the bottom for a little bit and fish pash overhead, and it literally gets darker. because there's just that
So
much
many
fish, and
yes.
it's insane. And I wish we could have that here again, because like looking at old like kind of catch photos and stories, it's like, you know, you throw your talaza and you fill up how many coolers, right? And I don't know if that still happens, or it probably does, but maybe not as often as it used to. And so the whole, you know, we're not trying to do a fisheries management plan just for the fun of it, right? We're doing it because we're trying to protect the populations of fish that we're trying to get back to where we used to be. Is that fair?
Yeah, it'll take some time for sure, but the goal is to ensure that we have fish for future generations and not just a little bit of fish. And we have to work hard, guys. You got to be a deep diver and have a long breath hold to be able to get a decent fish nowadays. Just to be able to go out there and spend a little bit of effort, not too much, and bring your kids and your family and be able to get fish to bring home for dinner. And the way I see these proposed measures, the ones that will be presented at the town halls, unless if you're already fishing sustainably, you're not over harvesting, you're not catching small fish, these measures are going to have little to no effect on you. So again, I was thinking to myself, like, I as a fisherwoman, how will these measures affect me? And I thought about it. I was like, they're not really. I don't catch small fish, you know, and I don't take more than what I need. I'm happy to get a fishing license as a recreational fisher, and I already report my catch. So at the end of the day, it's not going to affect me. So I guess you can say the FMP is kind of targeting the problem children, right? It's like if you're taking too much, if you're over exploiting our reefs, if you're catching fish that are too small, then I do see that's what the FMP is kind of meant to target, the unsustainable ways. But at the end of the day, when you come to these town hall meetings, just sit down and think about it. Like, what are these? How will these measures affect me? And we do have a slide where we give like John Cruz as an example, or Joe Cruz, and you know, at the end of the day, it's not really going to have a huge effect on those fishing sustainably already.
Okay.
So you can think of it that way.
No,
it's really meant to it's not for funsies, you know, it's like meant to target over-exploitation of our fisheries. And if you're not over-exploiting our reefs, if you're fishing sustainably, you're going to be just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned there's 9 species. One is Tengisan, and a minimum of that was 2 feet. Mattenhagen, how many Mattenhagen species are there, or is it just one?
Just one.
So I know that in English there's actually I don't know
like for lugwa.
What is Mattenhagen in English actually?
It is a big-eyed bream.
Big-eyed bream?
Big-eyed bream.
Okay,
yes.
There's like a sand big-eyed bream, isn't?
That's a gymnocranius species.
Oh, it's just totally different.
That's, I think we would call. I don't even.
They're dumb.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's the gymnocranius. Yeah, they hang out above the sand. Okay. I don't know. I guess we would just call that mafuti, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, and so that's 2. Tengisan, there's Mattenhagen, and are the other 7?
There's bluefin tedikitus in there, and then the rest I think are parrots.
Okay, yeah. and all of those would be not reduced, but minimum catch size would be a foot. So 1 foot terakitu, that's fine. That's yeah. I mean, I could see I might have shot smaller than that, but like in general, it's about where you're seeing them. It must it goes from like EE straight to that. So like it's hard to see the in between size of those.
Yeah.
There's another size. What's that?
Tadakatizu.
Tadakatizu.
I learned that throughout my Tadakatizu. So there's EE, Tadakatizu, Tadakitu, and then
okay, so could you still catch? I guess you can't catch EE then if this comes to pass.
Well, those will be the exception. Are those newly recruited juveniles that come in for the EE? I combined EE and TAO. EE, TAO, Manyahawk, and a tulai will be. Well, there's no size limit for a tulai, but yeah, those will be the exceptions so that we can continue to traditionally harvest those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can catch them while they're still EE, but when they get up to, I'm going to butcher this, Tadakitizu?
Yeah, Tadakitizu.
Okay. Did I say it right or no?
I think you did, yeah. Tadakitizu. Shout out to the Pangolinan family who taught me that.
Okay. Yeah. So that would just be like the blank spot that you can't catch them in, but everything would be good.
So size limits are interesting because we, as a culture, already have like Chamorro words for different size fish. So catching a mature fish that's all traditional too. So once a fish is at a terakitu size, like you're able to harvest it.
That's such a great way to put it.
Yeah, so it's nothing new. It's just translating traditional knowledge into some formal management regulation.
We should have started with that.
We should have. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Because like when I explain to people,
don't shoot Palaxi, shoot Lagua.
Yeah. So when I explain to people who are my freediving students who want to get into spearfishing or already spearfishers but want to be better divers, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all like, "What is this fish called?" And like, it depends on the size. It's like, I don't know what it's called in English, but when they're this big, it's this name. When they're this big, it's another name. Or when it's this big, it's another name. So you can have like 2, 3, 4 size, different names for the same species of fish depending on the size. And
jacks are a prime example of that.
What EE?
EE, Terakatizu, Terakitu, Mumulan.
Yeah. And it's just, that just makes such perfect sense for our ancestors, right? As Chamorros, but I'm sure other cultures do the same. What do you call it? They'll notice is like, okay, when we catch them this size, they don't have any like eggs, and so okay, they're not making babies yet. So let's wait until they're at least a terakitu to harvest them, because they'll at least have had a chance of reproduction.
Restock the fishing grounds.
Okay, cool.
That's the goal. We have size limits. I can see. We'll not only restock fishing grounds, but over time we'll get to see larger individuals because we're letting those smaller ones go and grow.
Okay, so we got a few minutes left. Anything you wanted to say that you haven't had a chance to yet, or?
Well, I think we can talk about the town hall meetings for a little bit, just some details in case, we're hoping that the fishing community hopefully we get a huge turnout from the fishing community. It's going to be a pretty good town hall, all 3 of them.
You got some sick raffle prizes.
So North, Central, South. The North will occur on June 23rd, 5:30 p.m. at the Dedido Community Center. Central Town Hall will be June 24th, 5:30 p.m. at the Guam Museum. And the South Town Hall will occur June 25th, 5:30 p.m. at the Inalahan Community Center. We will have Chessa from Mosa's. We'll have gas cards, $20 gas cards for the first 30 people who attend each night.
Can I go to all 3?
No, we will keep note of. Well, you can come, but you'll just get 1 card.
Okay.
We'll also have 4 raffle prizes. It'll be 2 spear guns, 2 rod and reel sets from Big Hook and Cast Culture. The spear guns will come from GMI Scuba Wholesale, and then a tack cooler. So it's going to be pretty awesome. DAR really wants to incentivize the meetings so that we can get people to come. We really need your input. This is a conversation. Your knowledge, your experience is really vital to creating a plan that works for everyone. So please come. Please come with an open mind too. And I know Dar and me will be coming in with an open mind as well. Dar is really trying to take this bottom-up approach. They're trying to do this right, having conversations with the community on measures that will work. So please come. We need your input. And you have 3 opportunities to come.
Okay.
And we're hoping you can make at least 1.
Cool. So, and if people want to reach out to you or Dar, do you have a contact info?
Yeah, so you can either email me at sablonleilani@gmail.com, or you can call me at 671-482-2749, or you can reach out via Instagram at Guam_fish.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so also if you are fishing and you want to send her your data, if you can get a catch mat, I think you got some in the process of being printed. You can get entered into monthly raffles. So I've already gotten like a 2 or 3 raffles because people weren't fishing so much over the rough time of year. But so I got enough to get a brand new like dive knife from GMI H2 steel. Super.
Heck yeah.
I love that. I love those knives.
Yes, so catch mat reporting. Please reach out if you're interested. You can look at our Instagram page to see what that kind of looks like, some examples of submissions. But better data for our fisheries just is better for the long term in stock assessments. So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Lani, for joining me, and thanks, listeners and viewers, for joining us on another episode of the Guam Guy Show.
Thank you for
this was Leilani Sablon with the UOG CIS and Sea Grant. Awesome individual, awesome diver and spearfisher, and just a wonderful person. And I am so proud of you, Lani. You are so great.
Thank you, Fred. I've known him for a really long time, and I finally made it on the TheGuamGuy podcast. But yes, thanks for having me and allowing me to have the platform to share all things fish and fisheries.
All right. Thanks, Lani. Thanks, everybody. Shoot.
Adios.